Boruto episode 31, Boruto and Kagura. We have officially reached the end of the arc. The field trip is over, the villains are defeated, the heroes have won. Next week is a completely pointless episode about souvenirs, but for now, we have a pretty decent episode. I thought this was actually a really cool way to end out the arc with them, of course, on their field trip. And it was simple. It was actually way more action than I thought, because I thought for sure this was going to be another talky episode, and then the next one was going to finally be the end. But there wasn't that much talking. There was definitely, some dialogue in there for sure. But I felt there was a surprising amount of action. It was a great sequence with Shizuma versus Boruto and Mitsuki. That was the best part of the whole episode. Like, the animation was, was kind of the looser animation because they were flipping and stuff. All the way through that, I loved it. And getting to see Mitsuki utilize his skills is actually really cool. Like, we got to see him use his stretching abilities. A lot of wind techniques were used from both Boruto and Mitsuki, so that was actually kind of cool. We got to see the second iteration of the Boruto stream, and it was actually really cool. I was like, alright, this looks really cool. Visually, I kept thinking of the Rasengan, but they're heading somewhere with that. But I was like, this is cool. I like the way this is playing out. The two of them teaming up, Shizuma being taken over by Sanahata. That was great. It looked really cool. It was like a new element to the blade that probably won't ever get utilized again. We'll see what happens in the future. But I was like, that's actually kind of cool. I wouldn't have hated it if we got to see that, somewhere back in the day with Shippuden or something. And, something happened with Kisame, or, when the blade was taken from him and Killer B had it, if, he was in a fight, if, someone was trying to steal it back from him. That sort of thing, I think would have been really cool when we saw that, really take place. So I thought that was actually kind of awesome. Unless that was added in the anime version, because I don't remember from the manga. So it could have been there because I never watched through, like, the Great Ninja War. Once they hit the fillers, I was like, I'll just read it, and I never went back to watch those episodes. So if that somehow happened somewhere in there in anime form, I haven't seen it, so this is the first time for me seeing it. But I thought that was cool. The blade takes over Shizuma, and then it like actually morphs to his arm, and it goes like completely blue, and it looks like a dark shark, and then he actually gets like a fin and everything. And I was like, that's actually really sweet. Like, I would have loved to have seen that, like I said, in the past. But it was really cool. And of course, we have Mitsuki and Boruto trying to fight, and Kagura was basically just like all messed up because Shizuma basically revealed the truth. Mitsuki revealed the truth, and then Shizuma was kind of like, okay, here's like the extra little bits that he doesn't know about from my personal perspective. So Kagura was basically just like emotionally down for the count, and he was like, I don't know what to do, and he's just frozen in place while everyone else is fighting. And then eventually Chojuro gets in, and he's like, hey, sorry I was late, but I was basically evacuating everybody, so we got the villains out of there. It was like a quick second, but I saw both Sada and Iwabe were there as well. So he got everybody out of the location, and of course that was what he needed to do, because in this the actual like legitimate blood red mist, we have Shizuma, who's, like he even says himself, is basically invincible. Like, he has a weapon that absorbs chakra, and then he has this mist around him, which naturally absorbs chakra as well. So you're just standing there, if you happen to have a wound at least, your chakra is being absorbed through the wounds. Every time you get hit, even if it doesn't stab into you, the blade is taking chakra, because it's just like it's like a force field basically, and it's just like, all right, I can feel it, and then it just sucks it right out of you. So he was doing pretty well, for the most part, and it was actually very cool to watch that. And then when it comes down to it, Kagura's like, let me handle this, pretty much. And so he takes control, he utilizes the blade, and he kind of inputs a bunch of his chakra in. Pretty cool move. Like, his first strike, I legitimately thought he split him right in half. I was like, wow, that was over super fast, but he ended up surviving. Sorry, Trent, I'm sure you guys can hear that. It's raining like crazy here right now. But he hit him, and then it was like, okay, he's running out of chakra because he's like infusing the blade with it. And so Boruto's like, don't just try to do everything on your own, rely on your friends. So they both channel their chakra into the blade to officially split it up, and we get to see like a little bit of the twinge of the eye ability come back. So based on that, I would have to say that it is, oddly enough, very akin to Naruto before he was able to control the Kyuubi's power, because it would always be like, alright, I'm at the edge of my chakra, but I need to keep going. And so then he would basically be forcing the Kyuubi chakra throughout the rest of his body. And I feel like that's kind of what they were hinting at, because the whole fight was, oh man, we're losing our chakra. Like, he's using, techniques that require a bunch of chakra. He's using shadow clones against Kagura, and then the mist comes in, he uses more shadow clones, he uses the wind technique for the stream. And I'm like, he used up a ton of chakra, and then he's infusing pretty much the last of what he has into separating his blade so they can, do this final blow. And that little twinge, I was like, okay, he wasn't exactly at his limit, but it was, I feel like that's what it was. We'll have to get, like the official answer a little bit later on. But I was like, okay, I feel like that's kind of what they're hinting at a little bit. At least a part of it coming back could be related to him like forcing the rest of his chakra, and it kind of taps into this ability that he has. So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, because I certainly wasn't expecting like any sort of hints to it or anything like that until like way down the line when we get back to basically where the manga is, or going back into anything past the movie, I guess. So I didn't think we get any clues like that, but I was like, okay, that was a nice little touch to just be like, hey, don't forget that thing that's in there that has like zero explanation. I think it has an explanation in the manga at this point. I say this like every couple of weeks, but I'm like, I should really get back to that. I was reviewing it, but I just got bored because I was reading through the chapters that were just the movie, and then for some reason that stopped me from reading like the whole freaking thing. Plus it's monthly, so I can probably catch up super fast at this point. But I was like, okay, it was cool to see that little hint there. But I like the way they did it. They both have the blades, which it was crazy how big the blades were. Even when they separated, I was like, okay, it's it's two blades in one. But when they separated, I was like, those look huge. They look exactly the same separated as they did together. So like when I saw them separated and they looked that ginormous, I was like, that thing is actually insanely huge. Now that I put it in that perspective, because I always just thought I always thought when they were going to split it in half, I thought it would split down the middle, and one half would look like the blade, and they would have like one little hook on it, and then the other half would be like the other little hook part, and then it split, and it was like, it's not like this, or I can do it better with this hand. It's not like this. It's like it just split straight down, and it's just like that, and I was like, that's huge. Like I thought it was just gonna split like that and be like two small blades, and it was like they still look exactly the same, and I was like, that's insane. So it was kind of funny actually getting that realization, because I never paid that much attention when Kagura had it. I just always assumed, oh, when it splits, if he ever takes it apart, because I was waiting for him to do that for a long time. I was like, when is he just gonna like separate it and like dual wield? Because I really wanted to see that. So when they actually did split it, and it basically split like this into two giant pieces instead of splitting it into what I thought were going to be much smaller pieces, I was like, oh crap, that thing is much bigger. Like the way they drew it probably wasn't exactly the scale of what it actually looked like, because they made it look exactly the same even when they split it apart. I was like, that thing is ginormous together then. So a simple little moment, they separate the blade from Shizuma. He's defeated, everything's great, and it basically just ends where it's like, all right, so we're gonna be late, and they take off, and that was the end of the episode. It was like there wasn't any extra stuff where it was like, we made it back in time, or we're headed, we're back at the village or anything. It was like, all right, see ya, and that was it. And then it ends with Kagura looking at the Shinobi Belt card, saying like, oh, maybe changing colors is only possible for you. Looks up, very emotional, happy ending for him, and everything's good. And then they're gone. So I am super curious the relevance of this character, because I mentioned before when they changed the opening and they have like the whole sequence of Boruto versus Kagura, I was like, all right, you don't put a guy in the opening, like sure he's in the arc we're in, but that means nothing if he's not gonna show up. So I don't know what the case is, because I thought for sure the way this arc was gonna end was Kagura saying like, oh, I'm gonna go. Like I thought that's how they would do it, with him being like an ambassador and learning more about the other villages. And then I was like, nope, it ends and the next episode is totally pointless. Who knows, maybe we will see something, because there were a couple of scenes in the promo. It was Boruto, Sada, and Iwabe, and there's a part where Boruto's like freaking out. It was like the end of the promo, but it looked like they were in school, and that could be something minor. He was still standing next to Sada and Iwabe, but that could be that they went to class and they saw Kagura in there. So that could be what ends up happening, and he just freaked out because it was like, holy crap, I didn't think he'd be here. So that could be what still ends up happening in the next episode, and I hope that's the case, because we need something more than these souvenir things, because that really made me upset. I was like, we just got done with an arc. We had two really good episodes as far as like action, and even little bits of story were cool, but the action was great. There were two really good episodes ending out the arc, which seems to be their thing. It was like once we get to the end of the arcs, epic fight scenes, and it's like, man, it kind of takes you back to some of the cooler moments of the older shows. So they did that, and now we're shooting on to the next arc, although it seems like this probably will be a filler episode in between with the whole search for souvenirs. So I hope that something relevant happens in the next episode, even if it's not Kagura actually going to the Hidden Leaf Village. Just I hope there's something more than Boruto promises little sister a souvenir from the village. So I'm hoping that it's at least somewhat relevant, and then maybe we get some more clues as to what's going to happen in the next arc. Maybe it will actually kick off the next arc. Maybe it'll be like a really small portion, but anything relevant that actually furthers the legitimate story, I'm totally fine with. So I am looking forward to, what we're going to be getting. Of course, they're headed back to the village, so, we'll see how things start to play out. Because I mentioned one of the big things about this arc was, even though it's just, of course, it's an arc that will have like no sort of repercussions or anything like that on the future story, because everything's going to be concluded, and then it's like, here's the Boruto movie stuff. It was still cool. It's like, okay, we still get to see what's going on in a totally different village. We get to see a new environment. Now that we're going back to the Hidden Leaf Village, I have to wonder, like, all right, well, what are they going to do to, like, keep things entertaining? Like, where are we headed? And I hope we're headed to the Chunin exam soon. Like, I feel like it's been 100 million years. It's been 31 weeks at this point, so I'm like, we need to just get to the Boruto movie stuff, because I'm ready for them to just go into it, see the Sand Village come in, see the fights, and see the characters. So that's what I'm hoping for. I doubt that'll happen in the very next episode, but I seriously hope that we get to that very soon, much sooner, rather than later. But definitely a good way to end off the arc. Like I said, it was, yet another good fighting episode for sure. Very simple conclusion. They just fought the whole way through, saw some cool stuff, some new stuff from a blade that's been in the series for years now with Kisame. So, it was definitely cool to get that. And even though it definitely came out of nowhere, it was still really cool. I was like, all right, I definitely love that. I think it looks cool that it actually like can take over someone and then morph their body. So I thought that was actually pretty sweet. But all in all, a good way to end the arc. Not too much talking, but like just enough talking. Definitely some great action sequences, and just a simple way to end it. So I thought it was fun. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the next arc. I can't particularly say the next episode based on the promo, but I'm certainly looking forward to whatever we're gonna get from this next arc. But of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. And of course, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about the conclusion to this arc, the way it ended especially, because I thought for sure with it being the end of an arc, there's always like that wrap up. It's like, okay, the big fight is over and stuff, and then there's always that little sequence to say, here's exactly what's about to happen. And that wasn't it. That didn't happen in this episode. And I was like, oh, that's very surprising, because it just leaves it wide open. And the next episode seems to just go straight back to the village. So I hope the next episode does have that resolution that was kind of missing from this episode, where it's like, okay, here's exactly what's going to happen with Kagura and the village, and how important these characters are going to be going forward throughout the rest of the Boruto series. But I hope we get that for sure. But like I said, I would love to know how you guys thought this arc ended, if it was good, if it was bad. Arc in general, I would love to know what you guys thought. The whole arc was spent in another village. So we'd love to know how you guys are feeling about that one. Of course, it's much shorter than the initial arc, because it was, them at the village. So it was like the main arc, plus they could throw fillers in because it was just them at home pretty much. So, this was definitely tight-knit. It was just like they're somewhere else. Every episode is about, the arc itself, which I was totally fine with. I love that. But I enjoyed it. Overall, I definitely thought it was a good arc. It got better as it went on. The only thing that probably was the big issue is that everybody was related to somebody else. Where it was like, oh, this guy who everyone thought was a kid in Shippuden with Yagura. I was like, oh, he actually had a kid. Who had a kid? And that's now Kagura. The woman who had the lightning blade, Keep of the Fang, was like, oh, this person was my dad. And, the current Hokage actually killed him in the past, but my father didn't know I was his daughter. And it's like, okay. And then Shizuma apparently is a Hoshigaki. I don't know how or in what way he's related to Kisame, but that's his last name. And it's just like, all right, just characters related to other characters for no useful reason, or reasons that really make sense. Because, like I said, the Yagura thing, everyone assumed he was a kid, and even one of the big things is that he was like evil and stuff like that. But the whole point of him being evil was Madara was like controlling him or something like that. So it was like some stuff that doesn't make sense. Things here and there. At least that's what I read. I forgot. There's so much stuff in this in Naruto. I forget a lot of the points, but that's what a lot of people were talking about online. Where it's like, that doesn't even make sense that it's like a whole demon bloodline thing or anything like that, where Kagura is evil because of his blood. It's like, no, Yagura was only evil because he was being mind controlled. And I was like, oh, I forgot that. But that's another random thing that doesn't make sense, if that's 100% accurate. But either way, everyone, all the three characters being related to other characters, I definitely hated that, because I was like, there's no reason for this. And also, it would either be like no real reason for it outside of Kagura and Yagura, because that one made sense, especially with like, oh, him being evil and now me being evil as his grandson. But the Hoshigaki thing, just totally random, zero explanation to that. And then the woman whose name I totally can't even remember, there was no reason, because it was like no one cares about who she's related to, because I don't even remember visually what her father looked like in Naruto Shippuden. It was like, if I can't even remember what the character looks like, then they're not that important. They did not show up that much, and they clearly were not relevant in any way, shape, or form. So it's like, I don't know why they even bothered being like, yeah, my dad used to own these blades, and now I do. It's like, well, you're not going anywhere because you're an arc. You're an arc character, and you will never show up again. Maybe she will. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm being like super harsh, but it was just weird. It was like, there's no reason to have these characters, related. At least not Shizuma and the woman. I mean, sure, like I said, for Kagura, yeah, that makes sense. That was like the point of the arc, but Shizuma, it's not like we got any special answers out of that, or we still don't even know how he's related, but somehow his last name is Hoshigaki, and it's like, alright, so he's related to Kisame, but in what form? So I would love to know that. I could probably look it up, I'm sure it's out there. I don't know the whole grandson thing, I mentioned that before, where I was like, I saw that on YouTube, but I was like, anyone could just put anything on YouTube and just say it's that person, but his last name is Hoshigaki, everybody's the kid or grandkid of somebody, so maybe he is Kisame's like illegitimate son. Who knows? I don't know why they did that, but they did. It's like one of the few things that they added that just didn't make sense. Unlike the blade taking over and turning him into a shark. That was cool. I was like, all right, that's a new thing we've never had, but that's actually really sweet. I would love to see that come back. So, looking forward to the next episode. The one thing that really does give me hope is that in the promo we got to see Suigetsu as well as Orochimaru. So I'm hoping at least, the other half of next week's story will actually be relevant in some form. So even though the main focus is Boruto looking for souvenirs, considering we got to see two characters, two fairly relevant characters, I think at least, showing up in the promo, it kind of gets me excited. It's like, alright, what are they going to be talking about? What are they going to be doing? Because I don't think I'm going to give any craps about a souvenir hunt. So I hope it's a good episode next week. But like I said, we'll love to know what you guys thought about this arc in general, the finale to this arc, how you guys are feeling about it, care, didn't care, too many weird changes that didn't make a lot of sense. I would love to know what you guys thought about it. And of course, want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.